Hey, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Happy Friday.
It's happy Friday to you.
We have a little Readathon that we need to talk about.
All right, I'm ready. What's happening?
A little bit of an update in the Karen Read case. So, the Norfolk County DA has put a little filing up in the Karen Read case that made a little bit of news today. So this was obtained by news outlets, by Boston 25's Ted Daniel and others, and I have it. So the Massachusetts State Police has sent the Norfolk County DA's office the phone dump and iCloud dump from Trooper Michael Proctor.
Okay.
Because
his personal phone?
His work
phone?
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
He's being investigated.
Right, yeah.
By the Massachusetts State Police. He's been suspended without pay. He's being he's subject to an internal affairs investigation, and because of his behavior admitted on the stand during the trial in the Karen Read case. So clearly, this information on his phone is of interest to the defense in the Karen Read case. What else is on there? Yep. Not necessarily just in regard to the investigation, but in terms of impeachable Proctor stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Yeah.
All right. So this is the filing that they have submitted today. Quote, releasing the entire extraction report outside of law enforcement is anticipated to jeopardize open investigations, compromise the privacy and safety of civilians, and thus be contrary to the interests of justice. That's what the DA's office is saying in the filing. Basically, it then continues that it poses a physical risk to individuals and the public. Quote, the phone and cloud account may include sensitive and confidential communications and information regarding unrelated cases and active investigations. This information may include criminal offender record information, the names and contact information of confidential informants, names and contact information of civilian witnesses and victims, including minors, impounded search warrants, status updates of covert investigations, information about grand jury proceedings, autopsy records and photographs, and other sensitive privileged information. And then they said they are basically going to be deciding what's discoverable in his phone and cloud account. They are going to be making that decision, what's discoverable. That's what they say in this filing.
So there is probably an argument to be made that the entirety of his work product does affect many different cases. And if it were just made available and you could put all of it out on the web, you're right, there would be a lot of personal information not related to Karen Read, not related to his internal affairs investigation that you probably wouldn't want.
Right.
That's not in the public interest. And usually how that's handled is that the files and the information is redacted.
Right.
For example, a lot of times, we'll see in court filings, we'll see the name of a person, but their date of birth is blacked out. Their phone number is blacked out.
Or their name is blacked out.
Or their name is blacked out.
Right.
Because they're a minor or some other thing. And so, I could see you wouldn't want autopsy reports from a completely different thing to be found. But yeah, the fact that, I'm trying to think who decides what's discoverable.
The judge should be fucking deciding that. Here's what it says at the end of the thing, okay? Accordingly, this is a page turn, so excuse me. Accordingly, the Norfolk District Attorney's Office is in the process of ascertaining how to determine what, if any, information on Trooper Proctor's work phone or cloud account is discoverable in this or other cases.
Okay, so this is specific to... This filing is specific to the Karen Read case and not specific to the internal affairs investigation.
Yes, it's Commonwealth v. Karen Read. So basically... Yeah. This
does narrow it down. Yeah.
Yeah. So, granted, I am not a lawyer, and of course, and but my initial impressions of this, and this is why this is newsworthy. They're an adversary of Karen Read in this case.
Correct.
So I'm confused as to why and whether, and I'd love to hear from some lawyers on this, as I've heard from lawyers when I've put other things out there, as to whether they should be the arbiters of what's discoverable information here. I mean, granted, they do that with other things, right? But, if Karen Read's lawyers file a motion saying, we want to see everything because we want to decide what might be exculpatory information on his phone, right? Wouldn't that typically then be the judge who would say, give me everything?
Well, in some cases, but I think generally the way that would roll.
I mean, that's what happens in civil cases, right? That's what happened in the case in New Hampshire.
Sure, but it is sort of a case-by-case thing. I think what's happening here is this is being filed because has the defense already made a motion that they want this?
I haven't seen that. Okay. If they have, no.
Okay. So generally what happens is that this information, the raw evidence would be presented to the district attorney, and the district attorney makes its own determination on what is possibly exculpatory information. Brady material, right? This is all Brady material. And who decides that is often the goodness of the heart of the prosecutor. And this is why sometimes cases, become appealable, because there is stuff where sometimes prosecutors don't act in good faith, or they give a little credence to things that the defense would, actually find would be important, so they don't disclose that particular thing. So I would think that there would be an argument to be made by the defense that, no, we're not interested in information from other cases.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure. Although I would say, you can make an argument, if you're going to say, well, he lies.
Yes.
If you have other information that he lies, you can further impeach him on that. Yeah.
What if, just, I'm going to throw a hypothetical there out at you.
Mm-hmm.
What if he has a communication on his phone that indicates in another case he did something shady, where he says to another cop, hey, we're going to make this look better by planting a piece of evidence here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Isn't that exculpatory in some way to show a pattern of behavior by this officer?
Yeah, I think it's information that the Reed defense would want because they could use it to further impeach him.
Right.
And to show not only that he was a bad cop or that botched this investigation, but that if he has a pattern of doing that, right? You could say, as opposed to the argument of Trooper Proctor is good, but he just really messed up on this case. You might want, if you're the defense, say, oh, really? Well, here's a pattern of bad behavior where he did this thing. And then on this case, he did this. And so it does end up bolstering a claim that one can make that this is standard operating procedure for him. He will quickly railroad whoever he thinks he needs to.
Second question.
Yeah.
Should they request information about whatever case he was supposedly working with Kevin Albert?
Yeah, that would be interesting to find. I think that would be important.
Because he said that he didn't know any other Alberts, and then he was pressed, and he said, oh, that other Albert, Kevin Albert. But also, the nature of their communications, I think, are important. Because if he's communicating with Kevin Albert around a case, and there are other communications in there about the Reed case, that's important to know. That's a case I would ask them to see information around. I'd be curious to know from other lawyers whether or not this is something that they think smells weird, or if it just smells weird to me, given the other behaviors that we've seen demonstrated from this office. I spoke to somebody who's a Massachusetts resident and related to many Massachusetts cops, and just about my impressions of sort of the stinkiness of this. And, her whole thing was just oh, no. This is a very smelly part of the state. Absolutely. It's a known thing. It's not a secret thing.
Yeah.
And it very much comes from the old boys network of Kennedy Democrats never going to be out of office, old boys, we can do whatever we want ism. And, it just really feels like they are setting their own board game up to play the game that they've always been allowed to play over and over and over again. This may or may not be an example of that, but that's how it feels. And granted, feelings are not facts. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to ask you that question.
Yeah, I think a couple options. I think in the end, it's going to be the judge. If there's a dispute over what's available, I think one of the options the judge may have is to give the defense access to the information under seal, so that things like autopsy photos and personal information from cases that aren't relevant don't see the light of day, right? Yeah. They can look at them and everybody, you can look at it and say, yeah, you're right, that doesn't apply to our case.
Yeah.
One of the things I think they might have to do is, if they're going to submit all of that, they may have to supply an index, sort of a table of contents of what is the material. And so that they could see, okay, this stuff pertains to this, and they could skip around. It ends up being hard if you're also like looking for bad behavior on other cases that you've yet to discover. That, I mean, you really need, I don't want to call it fishing expedition, but you do need to be searching for it to some extent. If you can't give, a legal argument that, you need, like, if there's any involvement in like the Sarah Birchmore case.
Yeah.
Well, we see there's a nexus here in some way. Sandra Birchmore, excuse me. Maybe it's like, that's material that we're also interested in, Your Honor. Judging by the narrow view of the evidence that Judge Bev has previously allowed, I don't think it's going to be expansive.
Yeah. Can I just throw something else out there?
Sure.
My instincts tell me that they got this stuff and it's not good.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm sure it's pretty bad. Yeah. I mean, if they're going to say like, yeah, we're only going to give you some of it.
Or like, we're going to have to decide what to give you. I mean, my instincts are that if they got this and it basically showed, hey, this is just a cop who does cop stuff and it does his job, they'd be like, hey, you're going to share this with defense and we're going to have to come to some agreement about what's discoverable in court or not. Because like, that's very often how it works, right? Lawyers get together and they figure shit out,
Yeah.
My guess is that they got this and it's real bad.
My guess is that the FBI is going to be interested in this content too. Separately and parallel to this filing.
The FBI probably already has it. They probably already requested it and received it, right? I mean,
yeah, could be. I mean, yeah, who knows? I doubt that they had all of that information before now.
No.
FBI hasn't been sitting on it like for months, like with.
No, but if it exists and they know it exists, they will request it and receive it.
They will request it and I think receive it, unless.
Well, they're cooperating with the Norfolk County DA's office on the Birchmore case, so why wouldn't the Norfolk County DA's office, quote, cooperate with them in this?
Yeah, I think that probably then the FBI, if the FBI would request it from the state police or the district attorney's office, whoever has like the raw data here, and if they still don't want to release it, then they'd have to go to federal court and argue it out.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think the FBI would still have access to.
That would put them in a fucked up position because some of the cops in this case, like Tully, have been appearing at, they appeared at the press conference about the Birchmore case.
Sure.
So it would be very fucked up. I mean, I just don't think that they would not permit the FBI to have access to this, because to do that in this case.
Well, I would say that if you're, the Canton police, if you're the Massachusetts State Police, you know that everything that the FBI knew, they gave to Karen Read.
Yeah.
So you have no reason to believe that if the FBI gets their hands on that data, that they will not share it.
The judge kept it out of the trial, so it didn't matter. So
but it did not keep the facts.
Yeah, but the jury didn't understand it.
The jury didn't understand it, but they were still able to point out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Again, you don't necessarily need to have possession of the text messages if the text messages reveal something that you can impeach the witness on cross-examination about. You don't have to have the text message that says, Karen Read has a, leaky balloon knot or whatever. You don't have to confront somebody with that text, but you could ask them on the stand, have you ever said this? Have you ever sent a text with this? And if they say, they're going to have to say yes or perjure themselves, because if they end up saying no, then maybe the defense makes a motion to say, Your Honor, we believe that the state is withholding evidence that we can use to, impeach this witness. And it's not the balloon knot thing, but I'm just saying that I think that there are ways to get the information into the public record if there's something there.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're just like, here's all the information, and we're saying that none of it is available to be given to the defense. I mean, I don't think they're saying none of it, but they're saying we're going to be the arbiters of what is relevant to the Karen Read case.
Well, can I just say something else? If I'm another defendant, even if I had already had a trial and Proctor was involved in my case.
Oh, I want that information too.
I am 100% going after every single piece of information relevant to my case.
Did they not have to notify like more than a dozen defendants after Proctor?
Yes.
So all that information about Proctor is going to be recycled and used to impeach the investigation as it should be.
As it fucking should be.
That's their fault. That's not the fault
cop.
of the.
This is a dirty cop, a admittedly dirty cop. I mean, we're not talking about a allegedly dirty cop, an admitted dirty cop.
Yeah, and look, in God's honest truth, some of those people that are going to benefit from that might be people who are actually guilty.
Yeah, that he was just greasing the skids on, maybe.
Yep, yeah. And they probably did not need to put their thumb on that, and someone is not going to get justice because Proctor did shit that he wasn't supposed to do, and that's the police's fault. That's not the defendant's fault, the suspect, the perpetrator's fault.
Maybe there are cases in which Proctor did everything right, but because Proctor was on the case, the person will now not get convicted. Because he can't testify in that trial because he has been impeached as a witness, and the prosecution will not want to put him on, or they do put him on, and the defense successfully impeaches him and says, "Isn't it true that you are on unpaid leave and under internal investigation?"
Yeah.
Because of doing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, the prosecution would do that first. They would try to take the sting out of that, which is what they did with the entire prosecution in Karen Reed, where they tried to put all the McCabe's on and all the Alberts on first so they can smooth the rough edges here and try to deny the defense as many Perry Mason moments as they could.
Right.
So, yeah, this is interesting, but yeah, I think some of this is pretty normal procedure, but I feel like they may be using this as a pretext to limit the damage. Because certainly what they think, or the DA might tell an appellate court, well, I didn't think that was relevant to the case, and so we didn't turn that over. Yeah.
Well, another piece of news is that a new leader has been selected for the Massachusetts State Police.
Oh, okay. The colonel didn't last?
No. Governor Maura Healey has selected Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey D. Noble of the New Jersey State Police as the next colonel of the Massachusetts State Police after a national search.
Smart move. Smart move not hiring from within.
Smart move
at
this
time. Yeah.
Not hiring from within. Curious move, I guess. The one thing that he has on his resume that she has been criticized for is that he does have some sort of anti-LGBTQ statement or something in his past, and Maura Healey is gay, so there's some question there as to why she'd hire him, but apparently she's very happy to bring somebody in from the outside. But this all started as this NBC 10 article points out in 2017 that the Massachusetts State Police has been marred by a series of scandals beginning in 2017 when two troopers say they were pressured to remove embarrassing details about the arrest of a judge's daughter. That was the scandal known as Troopergate. And who broke that story?
Turtle Boy.
Absolutely. Turtle Boy broke that story. The widest reaching scandal was the overtime fraud scheme that implicated nearly 50 state troopers. This involved overtime pay they never worked along the Massachusetts Pike that ended up disbanding an entire troop of the Massachusetts State Police in 2018. It cost lots of jobs, a wave of, quote, retirements, and resulted in some convictions inside federal and state courtrooms and restitution to taxpayers. Former president of the State Police Union was sentenced to prison for accepting kickbacks and spending union money on personal expenses. And, of course, injuries suffered by recruits when they performed bear crawls on hot pavement at the police academy in 2022.
Oh, man.
Of course,
I remember one of my first stories that I did when I was a intern at a news radio station in Springfield had to do with accidents and fatal accidents and misconduct at the police training academy.
Yeah.
You think they'd get their shit together, but all right.
Oh, apparently recruits are dropping out of the academy at a record rate since 2023 because in large part because of these scandals and because of, I guess, the culture inside the police academy there. But right now, of course, Trooper Michael Proctor has been suspended without pay. Two of Proctor's supervisors, Yuri Buchanan and Tully, who we saw at that Birchmore press conference, is the subject. They are subjects of an active internal affairs investigation. They remain on full duty. So scandal after scandal after scandal after scandal. And we should mention that the police officer who is accused of murdering Sandra Birchmore was also the head of his own union chapter
in Stoughton, right?
In Stoughton, yeah. So
just one other question. You talked about Buchanan and Tully.
Yeah.
Just to follow up on this thread that we had in a previous Readathon episode about these troopers following up on pro-Karen Read complaints.
Yeah, they're the ones who keep showing up people's houses, Buchanan and Tully.
Still, after this.
Oh, there's still video.
I cannot understand why this is happening.
It's still happening.
Because if they're going out, if they're freelancing this on their own, that is highly irregular. And I got to think that if there is a complaint about this, whoever is assigning these duties has to know better.
Yeah.
Has to know that it's a bad look to send those two guys.
Right.
That they should send anybody else. They could get the job done. But because they send these two guys, or they're going on their own, they know they're being intimidating as well as being,
stupid, because everybody knows who they are and people are posting videos of them on social media. I fucking know what Buchanan looks like.
Just,
at
of
this
course,
point.
well, all the people that are going to be knocking on the door, he identifies himself, right?
But also he's very distinctive looking.
Yeah.
He has a hint of a Ukrainian accent, and he's like, and they all wear these stupid. By the way, they're not stupid, but they all wear the same shoes. It's actually become a meme. They all wear these like stride right looking shoes. They're not stride right. They're like Cole Haan shoes, but they have these white soles, these brown shoes, these white soles, and they're just very distinctive looking. But yeah, so what I suspect is happening is that people are making complaints or have made complaints, and they're
quote unquote people.
McAlberts are making complaints against people
the
who
sock
are
puppets.
Protesting outside of their houses or not, whatever, or their pizza shop or whatever. And, they're going to people's houses. And these people, they're not stupid. They know what to do. They know they're allowed to film the cops. They know they're allowed to say, get off my property. They know they're allowed to say, am I under arrest? No, then leave. Which, by the way, is your right. You can tell the police to go away if you're not under arrest, especially if you're white. You can absolutely do that. If you're black, that's not a tactic that tends to work for people as well. That's just true. I'm not saying that's not your right. I'm just saying that it's just something that we know to be true. They're not stupid. They're filming these encounters. They're posting them on social media. And yes, it's Buchanan and Tully over and over and fucking over again. So yes, my advice to the Massachusetts State Police is either tell people who call with these complaints, you know what, we're aware of this pattern. We are continuing to look into it. And then do not go to these fucking people's houses and look into it. Or just call them and leave them a message.
Yeah. Or
send somebody else. Send somebody who's just out of the academy and like some nice young earnest cop who's just can say, I'm sorry to bother you, ma'am, but I'm required to come and do this because somebody complained, and have it be like a lovely interaction that is not that.
Man, I just can't believe that
these guys are bullies. They're bullies, these guys.
If the nature of their internal investigation has to do with improper conduct around this case, the fact they would keep showing up at the homes of people and inserting themselves further into this case seems incredibly short-sighted.
Yeah. They're shadow accusing them of witness intimidation. They are not doing witness intimidation. They are exercising their First Amendment rights to stand outside and hold signs.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
like that's what they're fucking doing. Just like the anti-Karen people.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone is employing intimidation tactics, it's these two state police troopers who keep showing up at the homes of private citizens who are protesting the state police.
Can I just say one final thing that's really been on my mind lately? And I've said this before sort of in more like oblique ways, but I just want to just get it out there as the election approaches because it's very interesting. It's very interesting. It comes up in almost every conversation I have about this case. Almost everybody involved in this case is a Donald Trump supporter. And if you look on the pro-Karen Read and anti-Karen Read social media pages, almost everybody has like MAGA in their handles. So it's just super interesting.
For the
very vocal
anti-Karen Reads?
Both.
Oh, both. Oh, everybody with a big mouth on either side?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
The big mouth.
It's actually a political dynamic because that's
social
not...
media.
Yeah,
it's so,
that's not the state.
So interesting. This is this is what's really interesting about it. And, I've talked about Canton, leaning a little bit more conservative than other areas. But yes, Canton did end up voting for Biden in the last election, but had more Republican votes than other surrounding towns. It just leans a little bit more red. But... there are so many Donald Trump supporters who are free Karen Read people. There are also a lot of Donald Trump supporters who are fuck her, she definitely did it kind of people. sort of standing the thin blue line, she killed a cop sort of side. That being said, there were no cops present at his trial, which is so fucking interesting because anytime a cop dies, the courtroom is full of cops. And it's been pointed out again and again and again that there were no cops present at his trial. And I've heard anecdotally that many, many, many cops believe that she didn't do it. And that's why. So one of the things that I found interesting is that I have posted a couple of things in response to the prosecutor's podcast, which I find to be an abhorrent podcast. It's a podcast that on purpose pretends to be credulous about things that they know not to be true for the sake of building audience. And it's just so insidious, that show. But when I sort of push back on them, some people like come in my response and say, I agree with you, go, whatever. And then I look at people's handles and like they're really conservative. The whole rest of their whole thing is like MAGA, pro-Trump, MAGA. And it's just so interesting to me to see where this case is a place of agreement for people.
You're saying that it doesn't follow along traditional lines of criminal justice reform-minded people.
100% not. And that's the thing I've always found
Blue
interesting
Lives
about
Matter people, that it doesn't follow along those lines.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I've always found interesting about it because it is not about that. That's one of the reasons I think it's so important, because it has opened up the minds of people who aren't traditionally thinking about corruption in the criminal justice system politically to be able to see it. And granted, they're seeing it against this like conservative white woman defendant.
Well, that's the thing, because the defendant is a white woman, that it takes for white people observing it takes race out of the equation, which is usually part of the reason why they can't get their head around why the cops would be wrong if this black defendant must have, it's like, okay, take that away for a second. Now look at what everybody else has been seeing.
Right.
But
Sandra Birchmore is typically in the in the pile of people that not pro-socially justice-minded people wouldn't advocate for. Because she's poor, she had a lot of mental health issues and so forth. I think Sandra Birchmore is being advocated for by the same group of people because of the Karen Read case. It's opened up their minds to the possibility
of police misconduct,
misconduct, police malfeasance, police dirtiness, and prosecutorial misconduct, prosecutorial systemic dirtiness. And I find that so interesting, and it just, to me, opens up a window of agreement that I think is really fucking important.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that out there because it's a fascinating phenomenon to me, and I think it's something that we should potentially lean into if we can. So
yeah. So I'm assuming that what will happen next is that Karen Read's attorneys will file a motion in response to argue for the broadest release of data possible. And, probably it'll fall somewhere in between where both parties want. But certainly if they let that go unchallenged, then it just sort of gives, a pretext for bad actors to hide information that, is not black or white, to hide all the gray area and not release that in hopes of preserving, so as they don't sink either the Karen Read case or any of these other upcoming cases that would be affected by what's in there.
Absolutely. All right, well, we'll see. That's only one way to find out, right?
That's an interesting one. All right.
We'll keep an eye on it, Kevin. Thanks so much for joining me for this edition of the Readathon.
You got it.
Partners in Crime Media.